Alright, welcome back to Raimi Works 360 in the Normandy Diorama Part 2. I'm going to start this video off painting the wooden pallet that's going to sit here in the resupply area. To start off, I mixed light brown and duck tan together for my base coat, things that gave me a nice, warm, sun-faded wood tone to build from. I brushed that over the entire palette just to establish an even foundation. Once that dried, I went back in with some burnt umber and mahogany brown on a few of the boards. That step adds variation so every plank doesn't look exactly the same. Some look older and some look more weathered than others. It really helps break up that uniform look to make it feel more realistic. Then, to give the palette a bit more depth and definition, I used burnt umber along the edges and in between the boards. That little bit of darker tone helps the wood grain stand out and gives it a subtle shadow effect. I'm not really trying to make it look dirty, just used. Once this sits on the base and I start adding the gear and weathering around it, those tones will tie right into the scene and make the whole area feel cohesive. So with this first color, I'm going with flat earth. I'll be spraying this across the travel paths, open areas, and some irregular blotches. I'm also going to be spraying this on the tank trail where the tracks will be.
I can't do nothing with you.
I'll also be spraying this on the mortar pit area to where it looks like it's had some foot traffic, and then along where the vehicles are going to be parked. Now, I'm using this color because it gives me a nice warm earthy soil tone. I'm keeping my PSI around 15 to 18, and I'm not trying to cover everything, just misting in patches where the ground would be churned up or well traveled. This starts to give the base some natural variation.
I can't do nothing with you.
Up next, I'm laying down a base black coat, which really helps with shading as we progress, especially in those deep folds between the bags. For the next coat, I'm using a mix of US Field Drab, khaki, and olive drab. That combination gives me a good variety of tones. Some bags lean more toward the olive canvas look, while others have more tan or brown burlap feels. I won't be going for a perfect uniformity here, In real life, sandbags fade at different rates. They get replaced and they pick up dirt, dust differently. So I'm alternating the colors slightly between each bag to make the pile look more natural. Once this layer dries, I'll come back in with a light, dry brush of deck tan and buff just to pick up the raised edges and finish it off with a thin burnt umber wash to tie the tones together and add that used weather look. Simple steps, but it really makes them pop once they're set next to the mortar and the base. Now I'll try to lighten things up a little bit with Vallejo Iraqi sand, thin down heavily, and misting it over raised edges and along edges of the path. It simulates dry dust and sun exposure. It breaks up those darker browns really nicely. Moving on to some vegetation tint. For a hint of greenery, I'm mixing US dark green with US field drab and a little bit of olive drab. I'll spray this along the edges near the rocks, basically where grass would naturally grow. This step blends the groundwork into the environment before I start adding the static grass or the foliage. Okay, so starting to get to the good stuff. For this next part, I'll be using Woodland Scenics groundwork. I'll be starting off with the fine turf burnt grass for a dry dead grass tone, mainly for the dusty paths and trampled areas. Next will be the blended turf earth blend, brown green soil mix for transitional ground cover. I'll also be laying down a layer of turf earth, pure brown, fine soil texture for more of a base coverage for realism. Then I'll wrap it up with the blended turf green blend, lively green, for the grass edges and vibrant patches, also along the center of where the tanks would be driving, essentially. The glue I used for this is the Podge Ultra matte, and it worked really well. For gluing the stuff on the pallet, I used clear tacky glue. It worked really well, and it's kind of hard to see the glue. Just don't overdo it. Also for the fuel barrels, or for the oil barrels and fuel cans, things like that, I dry brushed a gunmetal gray and some chocolate brown. I also dry brushed the ammo cans to really make the details pop. Alright, with the groundwork finished and sealed with Podge Ultra, it's time to start bringing the story to life, piece by piece. Every placement here is intentional, not just to look good, but to tell a story of movement, supply, and preparation before the next mission. I'm starting with the sandbags. These define the forward edge of the supply area where the mortar crew might have dug in or taken cover. Next up is the mortar itself. I'm setting it just behind the sandbags, angled slightly toward the open terrain. I want it to look like this team has been firing throughout the day, supporting the armored units being resupplied just a few yards back. The loader goes right next to the tube mid-action, one hand ready with a shell. The spotter off to the side is crouched, ready to call in fire on the coordinates. The assistant gunner holds his ears after just giving the round to the gunner. Next, I'm moving to the pallet. This is the heart of the resupply zone. I've placed scattered crates, field drums, and gear. Everything here tells a story of consistent movement, supplies being unpacked, ammo bags being restocked, and tools laid out for quick access. Near the resupply crate, I set the Sherman and the M18 Hellcat. The Sherman is getting restocked, and the Hellcat is getting worked on with a broken track. Finally, the M10 Tank Destroyer takes its place. It's rolling into place to provide cover for the resupply. And there it is, the full Normandy resupply scene. Every element, from the sandbags up front to the armor in the rear, works together to tell a single story. I always try to think about where the soldiers would move, how the vehicles would interact, and what the moment in time might have felt like. That brings the diorama to life. Not just the paint and texture, but the story behind the placement. Thanks for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it while I build this scene. In the next video, I'll start adding final weathering and details, dust effects, mud, and small touches that tie everything together. If you enjoyed this build, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know what you'd like to see here on Raimi Works 360. Thank you very much.